Hello everyone and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel and to episode 2 of Eddie versus the Algorithm, where every week we reveal the team the algorithm for Fantasy Football Fix has picked for that specific game week, and I try and take it on with the best 11 of my choice to try and beat the total score for that specific game week. And now you need to make sure you watch the whole video here because I do need to recap quickly what happened in game week 1 and who has won last game week before we reveal the algorithm team for game week 2, and then after that I'll reveal the team that I've got set to try and take it on. And as always, please, if you haven't already, do feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, turn on our notification bell for our daily transfer series as well, and also you won't miss these videos if you have the notifications turned on too. But without further ado, let's jump into it and see who took the victory last week in Eddie versus the algorithm. So if we look back at the algorithm's team for game week 1, it was a very creditable score of 88 total points. Of course, bear in mind there's no captain added on here, so that would have most likely been Mo Salah. Another 17 points on top of that. Do the maths, it's a very nice score. So really the only letdowns in this team was Sanchez, who failed to get a clean sheet in goal, Luke Shaw with a 1-pointer that nobody really would have predicted, and then Harvey Barnes with 3. Of course, Luke Shaw didn't manage to get any attack and returns in United's 5-1 victory against Leeds, which was a bit disappointing for me and both the algorithm. I also had him in my personal team, so yeah, not a great score, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much as bad as you can get in terms of Luke Shaw. He managed to get himself booked as well, I think, which is why he ended up with the 1 point. But yeah, the attacking did very well. Calvert-Lewin with 7 points, Antonio 13, Danny Ings 7. I had 2 of them. I didn't have Calvert-Lewin, and that was mainly because I was worried that he wasn't going to start. Harvey Barnes with a 3-pointer. People could have been unexpected and weren't expecting that, perhaps. I had Kai Havertz in my midfield, which did let me down quite a lot. Of course, the German failed to start for Chelsea and only got an 8-minute cameo towards the end of the game. And then Azpilicueta in defence over Ben Chilwell ended up being the wrong decision for me, not because of Chilwell not playing as well as Azpilicueta, but because, of course, Marcos Alonso started, and I do wish I'd gone for him because I was very close to changing it to Alonso, and I probably would have done last minute if I could make updates to it if nearer the time of the fixtures. But yeah, the main thing that did it for the algorithm, the double Liverpool defence over having Dean was one thing, and then Calvert-Lewin as that extra forward meant that the algorithm came in with a total 88 points compared to my 82 points. Of course, I had Mendy in goal over Sanchez, which turned out to be the correct decision, but other than that, I didn't do many things right this game week, and yeah, so there wasn't too much difference between the two teams, so I'm not going to waste time showing you both of them. But yeah, let's move into the algorithm team for this game week now, which I'm sure is what you're more excited for. So here it is then, the well-awaited Game Week 2 algorithm team. I'm so excited to get into this and see what the algorithm has selected. But as always, the bench is underneath me, so let's have a quick look at that. It's going to be Backman as a backup goalkeeper, so 4.5 spent on the keeper, which is interesting. Then Hayden, Brownhill and Duffy, which is quite interesting. I'm not sure about the order of the bench, to be honest. I quite respect the picks, but the order of the bench is a bit confusing me. I'm not sure I'd back Brownhill against Liverpool to get more points than Duffy, who's potentially starting against Watford. He has much more chance of a clean sheet than Brownhill would of getting an attack in return, I'd say, especially when he's not even starting for Burnley. But enough of that. We don't need to spend too much time on the bench. It's largely and almost always irrelevant anyway. Moving into the starting 11 and the goalkeeper, and it's going to be Robert Sanchez again. So the same goalkeeper selection as last week. And he faces a Watford team who bagged 3 goals on the opening day of the season against Aston Villa. So it's a brave shout, I'd have to say. And it's almost completing a double up if Duffy does somehow make it onto the pitch this game week for this team. Depending on formation, it could be quite a big possibility. But yeah, Sanchez didn't manage to bag a clean sheet in game week 1. But maybe this week the algorithm is hoping that he'll be able to get one himself. And maybe even 1 or 2 save points on top of that in that Watford game. Against an attack who do look very strong, Ismail Sarr, Dennis, these guys have looked great, and so whether Watford can continue their great form from day one, we're yet to wait and see. But yeah, moving into the defence, and the algorithm's gone with a back 4, and what stands out to me immediately there is that Lewis Dunk has made his way into the back 4. So that is, you know, a double up on the starting 11 and a triple up in Brighton defenders overall if you include the bench. And Lewis Dunk is the pick of the bunch, really, with set pieces and a great threat from corners himself in the air. He could be a fantastic pick and could grab himself something attacking-wise, even if Brighton don't manage to keep the clean sheet. So yeah, I'm quite surprised that it's gone with that many Brighton defenders, but clearly they're expecting a clean sheet for Brighton. And then alongside Lewis Dunk, they've gone with Trent and Tsimikas. So yeah, 2 Liverpool defenders, the same 2 as last week, at home to Burnley, with great attacking potential from both of them. It almost seems like a no-brainer. One of the most attackingly poor teams in the league, and Anfield crowd returning, you'd have to back Liverpool to probably annihilate Burnley. The record isn't fantastic what they've got against them though, so it's worth saying that, but I really don't see Burnley scoring either way. I expect it to be a 1 or 2-0 game minimum. And then finally, rounding off the back 4 is the Portuguese man Ruben Dias of Manchester City, and it's got with the more nailed of the 2 Portuguese men. Of course, Cancelo is there as an option as well, and so it seems that Ruben Dias is the most nailed. And that's maybe putting it into the algorithm why it's gone with him ahead of Cancelo as his projected starting lineup. The projected starting lineup will have Diaz as a higher percentage likely to start. He's always going to play unless he's injured. Ruben Diaz in that Man City team this season, you'd have to assume, but you never know what's going to happen with Pep Roulette. But at home to Norwich, again, similar to Burnley, probably more likelihood of scoring for Norwich than Burnley are of scoring against Liverpool. But yeah, I do really think that Ruben Dias is still a fantastic option, and you never know, he could always grab you a header from a set piece or something similar to Lewis Dunk. But yeah, less of a threat statistically, but last season he did manage to get 1 or 2 goals, I believe. Moving into midfield, we've got midfield 3 again, so a 4-3-3 formation for the second time in 2 weeks for the algorithm. And Mohamed Salah retains his place after a 17-pointer against Norwich themselves on the opening day of the season with a goal and 2 assists, and it seems like a no-brainer. But however, no place for the man who managed to score 3 more points than Salah. Bruno Fernandes bagged a 20-point haul with his hat-trick against Leeds and United's 5-1 victory, but he's been replaced by Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne came off the bench against Spurs, and yeah, it's quite an interesting pick for me. I'm not too sold on it myself. De Bruyne, I'm not 100% sure if he's even going to start, to be honest, but if he does, of course, we know how much of a fantastic threat he can be, almost at the centre of everything Manchester City do, and they'll be looking to bounce back from that defeat, as they always do, relatively strongly, and that's indicated by the double-up in midfield. Riyad Mahrez, a man who's in my personal team, and has made his way into the algorithm 11, which has made me a bit more confident about having him for my team this week, and yeah, Mahrez could have had a goal against Spurs, missed a very decent half-volley chance, and I would back him to get something. He's been banged quite wide, interestingly enough, so whether the points will be shared out between him, Grealish, Ferran Torres perhaps, and De Bruyne if he starts. Gundogan could potentially be out, but he could start as well and potentially get some points. But I do like Mahrez as a pick, and again, Norwich's defence looked quite shaky, and so if Manchester City can bag a few goals at home, I'd definitely back those 2 to be in the money. And then finally moving on to the forward line. It's a forward 3, as we already know, but it's going to be Ivan Toney, Michail Antonio, and Danny Ings up front. So Toney faces Crystal Palace, who suffered a 3-0 loss to Chelsea. And Toney did play quite deep against Arsenal, which was quite something I wanted to keep my eye on, and I'm hoping it doesn't continue. I'm hoping he can grab a bit more of an advanced position average overall. But he did nearly get an assist, and we were all asking on Twitter for that assist to be given, as it nearly skimmed his head before the second of Brentford's 2 goals against the Gunners. But yeah, Toney, I'm hoping he can grab something for my personal team as well, another player who's in it. And yeah, Antonio and Ings, again, 2 more players who are in my team, and also from the algorithm 11 from last week, who both returned. Antonio, of course, with a massive 13-point haul. Could have had it even better if he'd put away that penalty, but still a fantastic return. And he faces a Leicester side at home, who isn't the easiest fixture. I do prefer Danny Ings, who's got Newcastle, but it's still a fantastic, fantastic choice. Antonio, whenever he's fit and on the field until his hamstrings inevitably give way, he's going to be a fantastic pick. Almost every game week of the season, you'd have to argue when he's not injured. So yeah, that concludes the algorithm 11. Let's move into seeing what I can come up with to try and beat this very, very strong-looking team. And here we go then, this is my 11 and bench to take on that very strong looking algorithm team. And as you can see, I've gone big, I'm going all guns blazing with 3 triple ups. And the first of those is with the 3 Manchester City defenders in Ederson, whose kit you can barely see on this pitch, but Cancelo and Diaz alongside. So Diaz, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Tsimikas obviously likewise with the algorithm team in defence. But I've gone with a back 5. Luke Shaw and Cancelo make their way in just for pure attacking potential. I think Cancelo could be a fantastic pick. And of course there is probably a slight risk that he may not feature. Very, very slim. But in that case, I do have quite a very strong substitute, in my opinion, in Mbeumo on the bench. So yeah, worth bearing that in mind. Last week, I didn't have to use any of my subs, but Havertz and Chilwell came close to not featuring. So I've had a bit of money left over, so I used that extra million to upgrade a 4.5 midfielder on the bench to Mbeumo, just to have that cover, because Greenwood could be a slight risk as well. But I imagine he will feature either way, and I'm expecting him to start for sure, I think, this week. So yeah, speaking of Shaw, Luke Shaw is at the back. And Luke Shaw didn't get an attacking return against Leeds, but I'm really thinking he should be getting a few. Like, he's on a lot of set pieces, driving forward a lot. With Pogba on the left wing spot, I'm not sure whether he's not been performing as nice as he did with Rashford. But I'm really hopeful that, as Pogba takes up that advanced playmaker role, he leaves more space for Luke Shaw to stay wider and get those crosses into the box. And I'm really backing him to get something for the most highly owned defender in the game this week. So yeah, the Man City trio make up the back line. Trent and Tsimikas, we've already touched on, really. Pretty self-explanatory. They're going to be at home to Burnley. You put a 90% chance on them getting a clean sheet. I was half tempted to go with Alisson in goal as well, but I could not go without Mohamed Salah this week, and I would much rather have him, I think, than a Mahrez or De Bruyne in my team. And then instead of the Man City double up in midfield, I've gone with a Man United double up in midfield with Bruno Fernandes, who it seems impossible for me to go without. Similar with Mason Greenwood, to be honest. Mason Greenwood grabbed one goal. He easily could have had more in that 5-1 thrashing of Leeds. And after Southampton got spanked 9-0 by Man United last season, you'd have to think that without Vestergaard at the back as well, that they're going to concede at least a few goals to Manchester United. It inevitably won't go that way now I've picked this team, and I'm United fans, I'm really hoping for it. But yeah, that's what I've gone with, and I think I'd rather have the Man City defenders than the United defenders and City attackers, for example. And then out of the front two, I've left Antonio out. I've gone with just Ings and Tony, but still similar to the algorithm 11. I just thought that Newcastle and Crystal Palace better fixtures than the Leicester game, but I could easily see Antonio grabbing something, and he seems almost to score every game he's on the pitch until his hamstrings inevitably give out. So yeah, the bench is made up of Foster, just a 4.0 keeper. They're not going to be featuring unless something drastic happens to Ederson. Mbeumo, of course, the main only sub I'm expecting to potentially have to use, and then Obafemi and Gibbs White. So I'm really not bothered if Mbeumo comes on. He almost found his way into this team himself just by being there. But yeah, this team is 100 million value, and I had the million left over, as I mentioned, so I picked up Mbeumo for that first substitute spot. So let me know what you think of my team for this week. I wasn't too confident going into the last game week that my changes were going to be stronger than the algorithm's eventual team. But this week, I think I'm more confident. And yeah, a lot of resting really on how Manchester City do defensively and how Manchester United do attackingly away at Southampton. So yeah, I'm really hoping that it all goes my way this game week and we can make it 1-1 in this series. But it just goes to show how great the algorithm is that, I'm not a brilliant mind in the fantasy world, but I've been playing it for quite a long time and I'm not really worrying finding a way to beat it so far anyway. Maybe this week will be the change. And so if you have enjoyed the video, please feel sure to subscribe to the channel, as I mentioned at the start. Like the video if you want to see more of this series, and let me know, who do you think's going to come out on top this week, me or the algorithm? So vote down below, Eddie or the algorithm. Leave it in the comments section. So yeah, thanks all for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I wish you the best of Game Week 2s. Goodbye.